Hey everybody, this is Charles Hain coming to you for No Film School, talking to you about the Rotolight X2. So, the first thing that most people talk about when they talk about the X2 is that it is the brightest unit of its size. Now, every manufacturer is going to claim something similar, but it is really an indication when manufacturers talk about that they're really talking about output as being something that's very achievable and usable. Big soft LEDs weren't something we initially thought of as being super punchy, something that a soft light generally doesn't have a lot of throw because it doesn't have a lot of output the way soft light works. The Rotolight gets very, very bright. And even though it's a soft source, that soft source still is able to have a little bit of punch, a little bit of throw. The other cool thing that you're going to hear a lot about with the Rotolight X2 is that it's got what's called variable diffusion technology. So if you want maximum punch, maximum output, and you're willing to accept a little bit of hardness in your light unit, you can turn your diffusion all the way down. You'll see all the little point sources. Now, there's so many point sources, you're not going to really get a multi-point shadow out of that, but you're going to have a little bit of a harder light. You're looking at my hands. And be honest, you're all thinking that hand looks old. You're all seeing a lot more of the wrinkles on my hand, a lot more of the little individual little nicks, that little scar I got fixing a VCR as a kid. You're seeing all of that because that's what hard light does. Hard light gives you that hard contrast between brightness and shadow that really pops out details. So what do we do a lot of the times when we're on set? A lot of times, I remember the first time I must have been 18 or 19, I was on a set and I realized every light on set had some sort of diffusion on it. And I was like, there's a secret there. There's something happening there. And I watched what the DP was doing, and every light was affected in some way. It was very rare you had a fully hard light, because by putting a little softness on it, you start to see some of those, look how much younger my hand looks. You start to see some of those little details, some of that little information disappear as the front surface itself becomes the source. So by building that diffusion into the unit, Rotolight has made it so you can just throw up a single unit. And if you, instead of throwing a silk or an opal or something like that in front of it, you just turn a knob and you get that variable diffusion that's built right in. It has some very nifty effects, all of the traditional ones, but some of them, like the cop car effect, traditionally you want a hard light for the cop car effect. That's one of the things that's sort of a signature of a cop car light. So if you're going to use those pre-built effects, you might want to turn the diffusion off. It's an RGBW unit. You should know RGB, the primary colors in the additive system. What lighting manufacturers do, and what is really wonderful about this unit, is this is an RGBW, which means there's RGB diodes, so that it gives you the ability to dial in all of these crazy colors. But on top of those RGB diodes, you also have the ability, if you want, to dial in pure white colors at both 3200 and 6500 degrees Kelvin, which is what those two WWs are. So there's white diodes for cool daylight, there's white diodes for tungsten matching, and then there's the RGB. So between those 5 diode colors, the Rotolight is really designed to give you a big working spectrum and a wide variety of color looks you can create out of it, because they're covering sort of a lot of the color points out of those 5 diode colors. I don't know, maybe I'm gonna do some close-ups on like some knobs and stuff next. A lot of the time on smaller shows, I'm interacting just with the control panel on the back of the unit. And one of the really nice things I like about the Rotolight design is you get a whole lot of robust information and interactivity out of this menu system and knob system. We're in filter mode right now because the Rotolight has dozens and dozens, I think 1,500 pre-built filters. So it can match Lee filters and Roscoe filters and a whole bunch of other filter companies. So if there's a specific color you're used to, you can recreate it here. And I'm looking here at L105 orange, and I click info and I get a whole little info panel. Good for light entertainment and functions, creates a good fire effect when used with 106 or 104. So it's 105 and I know, 105 and 104, maybe I can make a fire effect out of it on multiple units, something like that. I click OK, it goes away. So I get all of that info out of this touchscreen, which is sort of a super nice, very modern feeling. A lot of very useful information is all previewed there for me on the screen, which I think is a really nice feature. I can switch, the classic modes, the color temperature mode, which can be working off those white LEDs, the RGBW mode, then HSI mode, which is hue, saturation, intensity, where I can sort of click and drag with my finger. So the touchscreen really pays off in a whole lot of ways. If you're not working on big DMX jobs very much and you're working on those smaller jobs where you're just sort of setting the unit yourself, you've got a whole lot of interactivity out of that touchscreen that I think is super nice and very appreciated. Now, one of the things that we've all run into with some of our LED lighting units, big powerful LEDs get hot. Sometimes we hear the fan on set. I want to point out, this light's been on quite a while now. We've got our fans going. You have control in the system menu. You can go into system and you can change your thermal management, which is going to change how much the fans are on. So if you know you're going to be in a hot situation, you could turn them on full blast ahead of time to try and get your cooling going. Or if you're in a really quiet situation and you keep hearing the fans and you're like, okay, I have an hour left and I really need to get this dialogue scene, you could turn the fans lower and risk overheating the light, but sometimes that's a decision you make as a DP if the fan's getting in the way of what you're doing. So far, Auto's been super quiet, and I've been really impressed with the quiet of these two fans, but you've also got this these big fans pumping some air, really making it, you can feel it with your hands, so that you're keeping the lighting unit cool and operating effectively. So that is the Titan Rotolight X2. It is a RGBW fixture. It is super bright for its fixture size, gives you a whole lot of power output for not a lot of power draw, and you've got that really fascinating variable diffusion feature, which is going to be super useful, save you time setting up additional grippage in order to modify the light modification built right into the unit itself. Rotolight X2, it's pretty cool.